Hey everybody, so in today's tutorial I'm going to be going over, I could best call it leg beat weave, contact leg beat weave. Not exactly ever good at terminology, but this sequence itself is actually something definitely on the advanced or intermediate level. This trick itself is something that I don't think there's a tutorial on at all. So this is why I've come here today, to show you guys how to get this done in some pretty simple motions and manners. Tips that helped me actually accomplish this trick, and how to get the timing and the feeling of where the dart's going and correlation to your body. I do have to say there are two ways to do this leg sequence. I'm gonna just show you guys today the one standing way. I believe the in motion one is a lot more difficult, and you need to already have the basics of this movement to learn the second, which is like a turning motion one, which you have to do while doing this same move, which I'll likely save for another video, maybe. So let's get right to it. I'm going to teach you guys how to be able to get into this movement as easy as possible, and I'm also going to break this move down into 3 parts, hopefully. It should eventually become 2 parts after you merge them all together, but I'm going to show you guys some of the things that helped me really get this down, packed and nice and smooth. This is something you're going to have to drill at home. You don't really need a lot of space for it. You don't even need to include the shot at the end if you want to learn just the actual leg movements itself, so you can learn how to coordinate and get that timing down correctly, because the timing is definitely one of the most difficult things to do. So let's get to it. I usually start off by giving myself a little bit less slack on my rope, and also getting the rope out of the way, because if it's already drooping down too much, the rope tends to get caught with the head as you're doing this movement in the way. So make sure your loops are small and tight, but also giving yourself enough slack to get in and out of this movement. I would say hold the rope dart just above the ground at about hip to belly button height. I feel like this is just enough rope to really get this movement down without getting in your way of your legs. This happens if you have too little slack on the rope, it won't work. If you have too much, it becomes really wonky and weird, and you just can't get the full motion, and it ends up hitting the ground also. Word of advisory: use a soft rope dart, not a metalhead rope dart for this technique, or a practice dart. You are going to bash your legs up and your shins up trying this trick over and over. So just try and avoid that, okay? Let's do this. So I usually start off in an upward swing, and I head it towards the inside of my anchor leg. My anchor leg is going to touch here. The rope is going to touch here, and it's going to push backwards like if I was stepping back. So if I was stepping backwards, it's going to give a launching motion to the dart, and it's basically going to kind of come up and around behind me, and it's going to come over my guide leg towards the front, and I'm basically just going to stop it there. This is step 1. See how naturally the rope dart, after it came back around? You may have to practice this motion a couple times to let it come around in the correct manner, so it could wrap around your foot in this manner. This will actually help you get to step 2 and step 3 a lot easier. So you'll learn where the rope dart is going and actually traveling in its motion so you can learn how to transition between all the movements and then cohesively stick all three together. So step one again. Upward swing, anchor leg to guide leg. Anchor leg to guide leg. This will get you to about here. Now this next motion is going to be a repeated motion, but I want you to pay attention to where the dart is actually laying on your shin. Here. Because when you get to this lifting motion, you're giving the dart the extra motion it needs to come up and around and motion back to exactly where it came from. This is likely the hardest part about this, and then keeping the rhythm after that is very difficult. As the dart is coming up, you're lifting your shin with the dart. You're not trying to turn or bend your knee too much or have it too straight, because it needs to be guided by your shin in a way. And if you end up bending your knee too much, it will end up like knee wrapping and doing like a very strange knee shot, and end up having you're throwing your timing off is what it's essentially doing. So after it's wrapped up here, you're going to learn how to push it upwards. But the thing is, it's also being controlled by where your hand is at your hip, in between your legs. So step one again. Make sure you're controlling your dart by keeping the rope tense at your hip area, and also make your adjustments here so you can learn the correct timing after it wraps here. Here, this is step two. Step two would be, well, let's do step one again. Step one, push back and let it land. Step two, I want you to lift your leg up and kind of let it unwind. As it unwinds, it should almost automatically travel back to your anchor leg in the same motion and the same wrap as your guide leg. But let it also stall. Make sure you maintain this, the rope dart actually kind of being tight and loose almost at the same time when you're doing this entire motion, so you learn how to unwind. So step one, push it back, let it wrap. Step two, lift, unwind, let it wrap. Now practice this movement back and forth a couple times by stalling it, just letting it land. Let's see if this possibly could be better. Sorry for the mid-flight adjustment. Okay. I know you can barely see me, but I want you to see what's going on with my legs. Practice this movement. Apologies. So step one, let it land. Make your adjustments. Now lift and unwind. And let it come back to your anchor leg. Place it back to where it needs to go. Now lift and let it unwind. Your leg is not doing a scooping motion backwards to it. Eventually, when you learn the full motion, the lifting of your leg and kind of like bowing out a little bit, like if you were marching in place, almost, the motion itself will complete on its own. So step one, push it back, let it land. Try it again. Now here, I stalled it while keeping my foot up. Now, I'm going to send it back and stall it in the same way without letting it touch the ground. This will help really gain how this motion is wrapping around your foot and your leg. Essentially, it's not wrapping around your foot later on, because what you're doing is you're going to be lifting your leg and it's going to be sending it out. So this practice of getting it to wrap around, and then from here learning how to lift it up and around. Lift. This lifting motion is coming from my shins almost. So it's being pushed back with my shin from here. Now, you're going to want to be able to combine the two movements together. So step one, lift. Now you're combining those two motions. You see how I lift my knee up as if I was marching in place, but I'm giving the dart its space to move up on my shin as I'm giving it the motion to come upward more and come back on its own when I'm bringing my leg down. Step 1 and 2 is that lifting motion. That lifting motion is really going to help. You have to learn how to lead it off. Lead off the dart as it's coming around and up. And that motion, that tension, is being controlled as it's coming behind you from your guide hand in between your legs. So learning how to maintain enough rope to let it be controlled from here as well. Practice this a couple times so you can learn how to get this marching motion. Now when you're going to combine the two motions, it should be push it back, lift up the knee, and time it. The timing is everything on this. The timing is everything. So pay attention to what's going on with your hands and also with your dart. Pay attention how it's feeling and going behind you, and time your legs correctly to catch that motion as it's coming up in both sides, as it's coming up on touching on both your shins. So you can time that movement correctly. Push it back, lift it up, push it back, lift it up, push it back, lift it up, push it back, lift it up. It's the same two motions on repeat. Push it back, lift it up. Pushing it back, lifting it up. Pushing it back, lifting it up. Now this is going to have to take a lot of timing and patience. Take some breaks away from these steps and movements. But I really hope that this is going to help all of you figure out how to do this. The second way that you could enter in on this, or you could even make the movements shorter, is just do about 2 or 3 leg weaves, and on the third just release. It's still very aesthetically pleasing and still very nice to get done, but of course you could always make your variations Jade belt, I believe I saw one person do with. Something like this. Your variations are endless, but I really hope that this tutorial helped everyone out. Of course, I'm gonna go ahead and try and make a second video to teach everyone this in motion ones, but if you ever have any questions or need any clarification on anything, feel free to comment or post on the here. Love you guys. Dart life.